I have had a chance to play around with MCP, and it's one of those things I do feel like you have to play around with it to really get it. Often when we're building things with LLMs.
Now, ChatGPT is definitely leading the pack in terms of the numbers of users they have, but they reported a 30% increase.
They all have these problems, right? And you can get stuck and you're like, man, I just wasted 5 hours.
The true definition of an AI agent, an agentic behavior, is you can give the AI a goal of what to accomplish.
Welcome to another episode of AI After Hours. Each month, we cut through the AI hype by answering your top questions and calling bullshit on the headlines that we don't think make any sense. Join us for a monthly roundup of AI news and real insights into what's true and what's not in the world of artificial intelligence. Have a question or topic? Email us at support@AI Career Boost to join in on the conversation. Let's dive into the world of AI together.
I'm your co-host, Yuying Chen-Wynn, technology and product executive, extensive experience in fintech, edtech. I'm an ex-chief product officer turned AI executive, currently leading everything, and I do mean everything, generative AI at the financial company Peak 6 and its family of companies. I specialize in building high-performing teams and truly understand what it means to meaningfully leverage AI into your business and not just draft an email for everybody. And I really love talking about AI, especially with my co-host.
And that is me. I'm the other co-host. My name's Polly Allen, and I'm the founder of AI Career Boost, where I spend my time helping product managers and leaders navigate the world of AI and transitioned into AI leadership roles. And I spent my career on both the product management and software development sides of the fence, much like Yuying. My most recent role was at Amazon's Alexa. I was a principal product manager there, where I successfully launched the very first AI generated answers on Alexa. I'm fortunate enough to be recognized as a top 100 Women of the Future award winner. And I also love talking about AI, especially on this After Hours podcast. We generally have some kind of bevy. What have you got going there, Yu Ying?
I need to wake up. I need to wake up. It's a little bit of an energy drink, a little bit of caffeine. I'm like, oh, because I've been debugging my code.
It's time for like espresso martini.
Yeah, exactly. A little side shot on the side. What are you drinking?
I have a lovely like citrus bubbly water. Surprise, it doesn't actually have alcohol in it.
Look, you're looking very healthy. What is going on? I need to know.
Exactly. It's more like it's vitamin C. You can hear a little bit. I'm just coming off a cold.
Excellent. You can't see mine, but mine is blue, so we're very very colorful today.
It's spring colors. Spring is in the wind. Awesome.
Yeah, exactly.
We want to kick us off with the news, Yuying?
All right. Monthly news roundup. So every month we summarize, not quite, but we pick and choose of all the headlines around AI, which there is a lot if you ever try to find them. But we filter that for you because, we're nice curious. Like that. You want a guided hand. Anyways, for this month, for the ones that we're looking at, I'm going to start with, oh my God, is there more models? All right. Okay. See if you can keep track. I only tell you the major ones. Okay. Llama is now version 4. That's Meta. Yeah. Okay, OpenAI, we have GPT 4.1, and this is a bigger deal, even though nobody mentioned 4.5. That came out before, but not too much acclaim. O3 Mini, that's a reasoning model. You already had the O3 up. The Mini has low, medium, high. Then there's O4 Mini. Nobody mentioned O4 before. O4 is actually completely brand new. O3 is a more performant version of its previous. Both of these are thinking models. And then Google Gemini 2.5 Flash. No longer it can experiment. Now, the thing is, even by the name, you can't tell. This is a thinking model. All right. Oh. I know. I totally missed that too until I read it. Okay. So that was Google. So let's see. So we covered Meta, OpenAI, Google. I keep going. There's a lot of models. We got Grok 3, which the model already came out, but now it's available through API, which was not available before, which means I get to add it to my platform. And Grok 3.5, the actual model, the beta is next week. Okay. And you thought I was done. No, I'm not.
There's still more.
And this is just the big ones. Okay. Runway Gen 4. This is a video generation model. Runway is one of the top video generation startups, and their model, Gen 4, is image and text to video, right? So this is a
Mm.
video generation. And not forgetting our nice image generation. Everybody remember Midjourney? We kind of haven't talked about them for a while. We are on V7. Okay, so we got a few threes, fours, point ones, threes, three, five,
Totally.
fours, but Midjourney is on V7. That is all the major model.
Yeah, that's
Base
not
load
even.
on the
So I,
vehicle.
I had a great question from someone in my boot camp this week, Yuying. So for people who are like new to the space, it's so overwhelming. I mean, it's overwhelming for us, right? Just to try to keep up. As not necessarily like a technologist, but a product leader. Like, why is a new model relevant anymore? It used to be like there may be a whole step function in capabilities, and it doesn't really seem like that's happening as much, right? There's like O1 versus O3 versus O4. Is this something like how do you use this in practice? I'm wondering, is this you just are looking out for models you might want to add to your stable of models that you're testing out in your platform and you're always switching out to find out which is the best one, or how do you think about using them?
I right now I could care less.
Everyone could just
Is that
relax.
is that
You're
is that
allowed to
terrible?
not
That's
care.
that's terrible. Okay, so they care right now, they care more than we do. Every
Who do?
announcement, the the model makers,
Yeah,
every announcement means some spotlight goes onto them. It's really for me like a more public
right.
like
It's
okay,
the
3
marketing
to
thing.
4, O3 mini, O4 mini. The minis I care a little bit about because if there's a reasoning model that I really like, it's
Yeah,
slow. I'm looking for a
yeah,
faster version. I care about that a little bit. I'm not doing massive like deep thinking here
yeah.
using my application. So I don't care so much. The one I cared about, why I had Grok 3 API, you're like, why is that in there? Because Grok 3 is blindingly fast, not because of the
Um,
model, but because of the data center they're on. And I'm like,
uh,
wait, if you have, for my needs, same performance everybody else, you're just blindingly fast? That's the only thing I care about right now of something that does everything else I've had it to do, but now it's blindingly fast
gotcha.
and I want it through API. That's the only one. That's why you're like, if you notice, that one was an API. That was not a model release. Why does you even care? That's why I care.
Okay, something of, but that's it. So no, so sometimes there are new capabilities that really do make a difference in your app, right? And it may be something like I remember like when Gemini wrap they had a bunch of new models, but they also like totally dropped all their costs to like 10x cheaper than anyone else, right?
Yeah.
Everyone else quickly followed, but it's like they're trying to find a way to differentiate. And so when they have a release, I do think of it too as more of a like marketing push. Interesting, there's no Claude in there, no Anthropic models this month.
No, they're
I think,
focused. I think the more realistic, impactful ones are API changes and
yeah,
feature changes,
yeah,
which at the model level, at some point you were kind of like, well, it's smart enough. Are we really going to notice?
right. Yeah, exactly. So is this cheaper? Is this a much smaller model that can do the same thing as a bigger model? That kind of thing.
Yeah,
Awesome. So yeah. So
exactly.
yeah, I think that's important though that people know you don't have to like memorize, have a like growing encyclopedia of every model that's ever existed and its exact capabilities in your brain. It's more about like keeping an eye out for something relevant for your product and knowing when, hey, I'm looking for something faster, or actually we've got this one problem and even the latest thinking models kind of struggle with it. We're looking for, as soon as something smarter, quote unquote, comes out, we'll try that, right?
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So, it is for you to know, but you don't need to remember. Okay, but the things, so I talk about the things that I think are important, some of them,
Yeah.
even though it is not in production yet. Now, I think it was the last episode or the one before we talked about MCP, which is the Model
Hmm.
Complex
Protocol.
Protocol, which allows you basically to have a universal way to connect to data sources that matter to you. Now, the new one, the new protocol, it's called Google A2A protocol, not yet in production. It is
Yeah.
an agent to agent protocol, which means ideally, LinkedIn will have an agent that helps you find candidates for your roles.
Yeah.
Google will have an agent that searches around the web for everything. And those agents can talk to each other for you to accomplish something else. And imagine that every major provider out there had their own agents that go do something specialized for
Yeah.
you can just be an orchestrator.
Totally.
This is the vision.
Hmm.
Have you seen this? What do you think?
I haven't had a chance to play around with it. I have had a chance to play around with MCP, and it's one of those things I do feel like you have to play around with it to really get it. Often when we're building things with LLMs, I was actually surprised to work out how very difficult it can be with no code tools, for example, to integrate to get your LLM to do things like I just want to send an email, I just want to add a line to a database. Um, Even the assistance API from OpenAI, it doesn't actually fire any of those requests themselves. You have to write code around it. It was just very complicated to actually do this, and everyone had to do it, right? Everyone was doing it themselves. Possibly your version has a bug in it, right? And so MCP is a way of saying like, hey, there's a standard way now to connect to a database, connect to your email, connect to whatever, and it's out there, it's tested, thousands of people are using it. You don't have to rewrite these all yourself. And then I always see A to A the same way, only the difference is it's connecting agents to agents, just like the name says, right? So again, instead of everyone writing their own version of a LinkedIn agent to crawl the LinkedIn site and find information, there's like, hey, there's an official one and everybody uses it, whether it's done by LinkedIn or it's open source and it's got a number of stars on the repo so you know that people are using it. Again, you don't have to do this from scratch, and you've got a standard way for your tools to connect. So it helps developers, but it's also really going to help the no code ecosystem and people building these things, because there's just a standard way to plug it into external systems now. I'm looking forward to it when it gets there. I think it'll be I hope it's robust enough to be adopted and be that protocol that lets us do that robustly and securely.
Yeah. I think I really like the vision, but I
Hmm.
don't understand the example they provided. The
Yeah.
example they provided had, for me, doesn't fit how I thought this was going to work. So I think
Huh.
there's a part of that in terms of the communication. I read through the example and I'm like, huh?
What's the example? I'm curious.
The example didn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
It's supposed to help you, I think, find the right job candidates, but in terms
Mm.
of the three that they implemented, the interaction didn't make any sense. So,
Mm.
but I also didn't run the code. I'm just trying to read what it
Exactly.
wrote. But this is one of those where I like the vision. I haven't seen specifics. We don't really have time to try something this early. So I think it has potential. We'll watch for it.
Awesome. Excellent. Keep your eye out for Google A to A.
All right. Okay. Outside of that, we said don't care so much about the model releases, but OpenAI had a news that really surprised me, and I think this is very interesting. Now, ChatGPT is definitely leading the pack in terms of the numbers of users they have,
Mm.
but they reported a 30% increase
That's right.
in the first quarter, so that January through March of this year.
Yeah.
30%. Now, any one of you have ever done B2C products, you know that this kind of jump 2 years into it. So we're talking about going from 15.5 million paid subscriber base to 20 million. This is not the kind of growth you see at this stage with these
Yeah.
numbers. You see these numbers like early on when people are going from like
But
1 to 7 to like
exactly. And
etc.
have had that explosive growth, in early 2022, or sorry, late 2022 to early 2023. Exactly. 2 years later, you get a 30% bump. That's insane. That's so huge.
Do you know what happened? Why?
Yeah, well, from what I had read, it had to do with all of these viral memes, like the Studio Ghibli meme where everyone was making a Studio Ghibli version of themselves and posting it. So they had that new image model coming right
Oh,
now,
okay.
right? And so they were at everyone made the Studio Ghibli meme, which is interesting given that Ghibli himself has said a lot of nasty things about AI and does not want his art used
Yeah, I
that
was gonna
way.
say, is it authorized? This is gonna be like copyright
No, and they
violation?
were like officially, well, that's it. So like this is all part of this swirling movement of like, does copyright matter anymore? We've got like companies
Oh,
coming out and
wow.
saying like we're going to, basically say we can't everyone should have access to all of this content, whether it's copyrightable or not, just to stay competitive. So there's definitely lawsuits from Studio
Mm.
Ghibli and cease and desists and things like that are coming out. It'll be a fight in the courts.
But it's a
Uh,
little bit of a so what? I got a 30% bump in
30%
that much money.
bump, right? I definitely,
Yeah.
OpenAI has been shown this willingness to do this again and again. Remember when they
Uh,
stole Scarlett
yeah.
Johansson's voice
Yeah, that
for one of
really
their
got
ads,
them
when they
big.
had actually asked her and she had said no?
Yeah. So this
I
time they
know.
just did it. Don't ask.
Exactly. So
Wow.
they, I mean, it wasn't just Studio Ghibli. Also, people were making those like, plastic wrap bobblehead dolls of themselves and things like that. Like, there's a couple of those
Oh,
memes that people that had
right.
gone around with memes, and so people, and I do think you needed to get access to the paid version to get the latest image models, right? They
Yeah.
don't give that one
Yeah.
away for the free version.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
everyone was all excited about. So it's so funny how something as silly as these silly, visual memes could drive something like that, right? It's like everyone's looking for it to be like,
Amazing.
oh my gosh, they, could, it's AGI now or some big advance in like the thinking or something.
Right.
Instead, it's like the dumbest thing possible. It's the thing that drove this kind
All
of.
right. Memes rule. That's what we
There we
learned
go.
from
Memes.
this. If you want your AI company to grow, memes. Hit the
Memes
meme
way.
trend. It's a meme marketing plan. All right. The last one, now I don't always go through and look through the research, but sometimes I pick one out just for fun.
Hmm.
You guys remember way back we talked about a research project around sperm whale, but the latest, I know it's not as fun, but almost as fun. Google's newest AI model to study dolphin speech.
Right?
Google
Translating.
DeepMind's Dolphin Gemma AI trains the data from wild dolphin projects, and maybe someday we'll be able to talk to dolphins
The
and understand what
dolphins,
they say. We know they communicated. This is the thing. We know
right?
they communicated with each other.
Right?
I want to know if they read The Hitchhiker's Galaxy and if they actually sing thank you for all the fish. Now, I think we might know the answers to that, but
Exactly. We'll
I have
find out.
no idea how dolphin communications will help Google Pixel smartphones. What?
Yeah.
Um, but maybe the dolphins need one too. So we'll
You could
see.
just like you're somewhere where there's dolphins. You can pull it out. You can like be like,
Talk to the
hey,
dolphin.
talk to the
Yo,
dolphin, a
can
dolphin
I get a
translator.
ride? My daughter really wants to go for a swim. Can we, anybody help us out?
You imagine? I
I'll
have
get you.
wanted for a while. I'm surprised this doesn't exist, at least like in concept, even if it's kind of sucky. Something where you could like chat with your pet, where you're like, it basically monitors. There's got to be like, smartwatch, but for your dog or your cat that monitors its like
Uh,
biomarkers and stuff. And then you're like, oh, their heart rate's elevated, and you could have like texted like data to speech that's like, oh, I'm very excited or whatever. Like give them
no,
a voice, give them a personality.
I want the one that in Up where they put it on the dog and he talks.
He talks exactly.
That's I'm like, forget biomarkers. I want him to talk.
These are finally the real breakthroughs. The
That's
real breakthroughs.
that's what we need
We need to
AI
talk to our
for.
pets.
And dolphins and pets. I'm
Exactly.
telling you, 30% bump in subscription.
At least.
Yeah. And that's far better than memes, people.
Oh, that's
It's gonna make the world a better place. I
there we
guarantee you
go.
we could talk to dogs and dolphins. Okay, and that rounds up a very serious recap of April AI news. Over to
April AI news.
you.
Fantastic. Awesome. Well, in our next section, we talk about the big questions that are being talked about in product leadership circles around AI. And I would say one of the biggest headlines or kind of topics of conversation this month has been the leaked memo from the Shopify CEO. So about 3 weeks ago, early April, there was a leaked memo, and very shortly after the leak, Toby, the Shopify CEO himself, went on and put it on X. He's like, this is in the process of being leaked anyway. I'm going to put it out there. And the reason it made such a splash was because it was officially saying, hey, Shopify is a very tech forward company. We have advocated for the use of AI, but we have not been urgent enough. We have not been directive enough. So here are some guidelines to be really crystal clear. We expect AI use from every single one of our employees. Reflexive AI use is a company-wide expectation, um, that we are asking you to use prototyping, AI-enabled prototyping for any new getting shit done project. So if you're ramping up any features and things you need to test, AI prototyping is mandated. So how is mandated, which is unusual for like a CEO to get that in the weeds, right? And then the one that really shook people up was it ended by saying there will be no new headcount unless you can prove that it can't be done with AI, right? So that's a big change, and it was definitely it was lauded by a lot of tech CEOs. It is definitely something also seen as saying the quiet part out loud, right? Where for the first time we're acknowledging, hey, we're no longer saying, don't worry, you won't be replaced by a person who, you won't be replaced by AI. You'll be replaced by a person using AI. We don't say that anymore, right? If there's no new headcount, we're at least canceling growth in favor of using AI. AI is replacing jobs officially, right? And so that's something
Definitely
that,
replacing new headcounts.
yeah. And that's something that like CEOs have been loath to say. So it's something that has emboldened a lot of them to say like, hey, like let's admit this. Um, it's also something that got a lot of flack from anyone involved in like change management, et cetera, because it wasn't very directive in terms of, hey, here's how to get trained up. It really just said, training is self-directed. Here's how to share all your learnings. It could definitely be seen by a lot of employees potentially as, hey, use AI or get out. It's a pretty aggressive move, right? And also like an excuse to potentially get rid of people if people are feeling not as bullish on AI as some others or they're skeptical, right? Any takes, Ying? What's your thought on this?
I'm looking at the draft right now,
Yeah,
and I think the the reflexive phrase is reflexive AI usage is now the baseline
right,
expectation at Shopify.
right.
I have to say, at a technology company, a technology native company, I would expect so.
Yeah,
Nobody's saying it out loud, but I would expect so.
yeah,
And it's one of those things where people don't go, who me? Unless you say it, but at the leadership level, everyone thinks this way.
right.
Now, using AI effectively is now a
Mm,
fundamental expectation of everyone at Shopify.
yeah.
The scary one I actually think in here, we will add AI usage questions to our
Mm,
performance
yeah,
and peer review questionnaires. We haven't yet said, look, you ain't getting any bonuses if you're not using it, but um, it's in there.
yeah,
So yeah, and the last one I'll highlight is everyone means everyone. So
yeah,
kudos on the courage to actually say it out loud. I think
right.
certain things, um, if it is the reality, but nobody says it out loud, it's the ones who can't read between the lines that suffer. So I think it's good to have that clarity. I don't
Yeah,
find this super unbalanced. I find this courageous and actually saying it out loud. It behooves every organization to not run as fast as with this, to be like, what advantage can we achieve for us, for ourselves, etc. in there. I think it's very scary for people who consider that, what? No, not my job. You have
yeah,
no idea how fast AI is going and what it can do for you. So it's a little bit of a forcing function. It's be very uncomfortable
totally.
for certain people. The thing I don't like is this one that goes, learning is self-directed.
That
I
was the one that caught me off guard too.
uh there's a lot
By
of
the way,
people who can
figure it out.
self-direct learning that part. Now, I just did literally just did a training session for property management, for like the parts of our organization that really don't come in contact with. And they were like, just, start from the very, very beginning. Like, so
Yeah,
I start with, okay, if you're using this like Google search, don't use keywords. Like literally pulling like, what is this? Is it okay? Is it, all this pieces? That part, when you go everyone, mm, your everyone is not all engineers.
right.
Your everyone is not all product managers and tech adjacent. Your everyone, yeah, think
Includes
about
marketing and
facilities.
sales and HR and exactly and there's not a lot of really great self-directed resources that aren't, it's very hard to find the ones that are for developers versus not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The general education at that level that's clean, it that's not people's focus. People aren't paying like where does the money. So this is a really big question. I want to say it's odd, you want to be like, he's terrible. No, this is I find it brave that he said it, and a lot of people are going to be scared and there will be backlash.
Yeah,
But I hope it gets handled with sensitivity.
totally. I'm totally with you. I think once I digested it, I realized there's a lot of talk about this being unempathetic, but actually, when you think of the context of like for every industry out there now, There is some 5 to 10 person startup, well funded by VCs, or maybe not even VC funded. They might not need VC funding if they're bootstrapped. But every time they add an employee, they've tried their darndest to do it with AI first. These new AI first startups, they will 100% eat your lunch if you don't take this tack, right?
Yeah.
And so there's a change management piece that's up to leaders to help the employees understand that it's like, this is the need for this is urgent. This is an existential risk. You think AI is an existential risk to your job? Not using AI is an existential risk to your job too. If we don't change, it's not a kindness to keep lying to them and say, oh, don't worry, it won't affect you. I know a lot of people who are like, hey, I'm just 10 years out of retirement, so maybe I've escaped this and I can like just skate through for 10 more years until, and it's like, oh man, I'm really sorry. But it's coming so fast. I also think it reflects like there's a lack of adoption sometimes because you can spend a lot of time with these tools dicking around trying to get something to work and it doesn't work, right? You and I have both experienced that where you're like, early lovable playing around with developing apps and it was like, oh man, like this is really frustrating. I tried really hard and it couldn't work at the end. There was a bug.
The AI falls down a rabbit hole that it cannot get itself out of.
Exactly. And whether that's a no-code tool or whether that's a coding tool, like they all have these problems, right? And you can get stuck and you're like, man, I just wasted 5 hours, right? But let's say you even waste 10 hours and then it saves you 100, right? The order of magnitude of time it will save you. It's worth the investment, even though it doesn't feel like it. And those tools are getting better and better. But I think the people who are going to leap ahead right now are the people who seize that opportunity to push through that frustration, right?
Yeah.
And really you know be pedantic and keep going even when these tools are early and tough to use because you'll be so much further ahead really understanding like the limitations and the uses and stuff later. So it's very, very tough to get people busy people who are just trying to get their job done, you
Yeah.
know, take this big detour in order to save yourself time later. I can see why you do need a forcing function, right?
Yeah.
To get people to do it.
So my only thing to the Shopify CEO is really you need to do some education, whether you bring someone outside in or what
Yeah.
have you. You can't imagine how much of my job I spent on that, but the result is the ones who know a little bit teach the next set. The ones who knows a
Okay.
little bit teach the next set. And then you kind of scaffold. Yeah.
Having everyone on the same
So
page too, right? Instead of
Ollie
sending
and I
everyone
can
out to like learn on
self-direct.
your
We
own.
have degrees from MIT. So unless they're coming in with the pure self-direct, mm,
Right. Yeah, exactly. And self-directed means they're all learning onesie twosie different tools, right? It's like there's a real advantage to having
yeah.
some formal education you put in place where
They
everyone gets on the same
actually
page.
end up with a lot of misunderstandings about how the AI works, and they continue using it that way with those wrong
Yeah.
assumptions, and at some point it stops.
Yeah.
Those are the things because you know what? The AI doesn't not work.
Yeah.
It always works. So you're like, oh, that was totally because, I looked left. I'm gonna look left every time, right?
Yeah.
But no. So
Exactly. So wrapping up, Shopify CEO memo. And since then there's been a couple companies, Duolingo is one of them that have also echoed this like urgency to their employees, setting expectations. For all the flack of it being unempathetic, I think they did a great job of setting expectations really clearly. They provided lots of examples when they say, we want you to use it, here's how, right? And I agree with you. The one place it falls down a little, they talk about how it's going to be measured, but it falls down a little on here's how to get educated and even providing some first resources on like get started with prompting, would be a big help for your workforce. So provide a little more direction and handholding, depending on your organization's needs and context.
yeah, exactly, exactly.
Fantastic.
All right, phew, that's a big one. We'll cover that. All right, up next, as you guys have heard me say, my absolute favorite section of all podcasts of all time, and
Bullshit
not
time.
because I'm biased. Totally not. And my children are the best looking children there are. Anyway,
They are beautiful.
yeah. I mean, yeah, completely objective. Anyway, BS in AI. This is where we call out the BS, we get tired of the randomness, and we
Yes.
clarify, really, why are they BS? So you don't
Yeah.
fall down the same trap. Now, I am gonna start us off this time. All right. So this is we are 2025, everyone has said, is the year of the agent, or we're in the age of
Mm.
agents. We just talked about the A to A protocol, agent to agent. We just saw Shopify CEO going, hey, can your team, what if your team had autonomous AI agents? Explain that you can't do that, then you can hire people. So agent, 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 agent. Now, what annoys me is stop calling code execution agents. So
Yeah.
agentic behavior, that is not that. All those, you're like, we're a marketing, we're a soft code, and you look under the hood, you're like, it's automation and code execution. I'm like, nope, that is not
Totally.
agentic AI.
It's the new
Damn
AI.
it.
The way they would just be like, I use AI, and you're like,
It's
it's a
not.
spreadsheet.
Okay, here's my definition of an agent. And if you
Yeah.
disagree, you're off my pot. Oh,
I was gonna say, we'll never talk again.
okay, yeah. The true definition of an AI agent, an agentic behavior,
Yeah.
is you can give the AI a goal of what to accomplish, not how.
Yeah.
You don't tell him the step by step of how to do it. You give
Hmm.
him a goal, what he's trying to reach.
Yeah.
He makes a plan, go, I think I'm going to do 17 things. Let me do this first one and see what happens.
Right.
So, plan, you take an action, you
Yeah.
observe the result. You're like, well, that was one step closer out of 17, or like, that went sideways. Let me change the plan and reiterate and see how the result compare to my uh, goal. This loop, no human in the loop, no interference, no human going, yes, no.
Yeah.
That is not agentic behavior when you go, hey, execute this code that perfectly does everything this every time to meet
Yeah.
that goal. That's not agentic AI people. That's just good old fashioned code working.
Automation.
Working
Yeah.
well. It's
Exactly.
automation. So, yeah, when we say the age of AI agents, autonomous agents, it is not, if you look at the marketing, as many as that's actually out there. If you look under the hood
Oh
or
no.
loop, I actually haven't seen a full working one yet. So, yeah, I know a
I
lot of
think
AI
there's some
people.
agentic behavior happening behind the scenes for some of these code generation tools, for
That's
example.
the only ones. That's the only
Right.
ones.
But the rest is a lot of, oh, imagine when it can. But I've
Yeah.
still, there's no agent in organizing my inbox zero to, your goal is inbox zero, manage my inbox. There's lots of people
Yeah.
claiming, there's lots of people try out our tool. I have yet to see anyone be like, oh, look at this magic tool that does it
Yeah.
amazingly well. And the best
Coding is
place
the
people are
only
someone
place.
like Google or Microsoft, and they haven't licked this problem yet, right?
Yeah,
So,
exactly. So
yeah,
ideally, with my Gmail, I should be like, I think my Gmail should be better organized.
yeah,
That's all I have to say. It should
right.
go through and be like, what do I think that means? I think that means less
Yeah.
spam. Look this. And then,
Exactly.
yeah.
That's the
Anyways,
clarity you need. I'm
yeah.
with you. You know what? I have just stopped using the term agent. Unless I'm in a specific context and we've agreed what we mean,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
just can't use it anymore. It just has stopped meaning anything because sometimes people are talking about, oh, this is a chat bot that replaces a customer service agent. It's an agent, You're like, what? So it's just become a useless term. I do use, like you, agentic AI, and I think of
Right.
it as a spectrum, right? So
Mhm.
the more it is goal oriented, the more it's using external tools. It has memory between sessions. Like there's a whole bunch of capabilities that
Right.
are more agentic. So technically, like a custom GPT is like, well, you can connect it to external tools. So it's slightly more agentic, but is this as agentic as a lovable that's writing a whole app for me? No, right? Um, and I like that because I think any problem you have, you can always think, okay, what if we took the human out of the loop and got the system to do it? Let's
Right.
think of that higher value task it could do if we introduced more agency, made it more agentic,
Let
right?
me ask you this. Is
Yeah.
deep research agentic AI?
I mean, spectrum,
Mhm.
right? Um, Uh, Man, that's a tough one because it's not, I mean, it's accessing external information. So technically, it's not just purely a prompt with some input, right? And I do think they're doing like prompt chaining multiple steps, which like Anthropic refers to though as agentic AI patterns, right?
Yeah.
It's doing some checking of the answers, that kind of thing. It's going through multiple steps that would, 6 months ago, a year ago, have been done with a human there to actually create the report, right? So I do think it counts, but again, it's not as far on the spectrum as some of these completely autonomous tools that are doing more higher level tasks than just producing a research report, right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I think if you look under the hood, the different deep researches, some of it come a little bit closer because it will actually look at the results of the first set of sources that comes back and go, maybe I need to get different sources for what I'm looking for. So
Yeah,
if I'm looking at, if they have that adjustment where they look at the output of something and adjust their plan, then
right.
it's much more closer to agentic. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. It's like it doesn't need the feedback piece. And it can vet and decide its own, it has access to an environment that helps it can interact with. No, completely agree. Okay, bullshit number one, stop calling everything agents.
I will call you on it. And no, you cannot get a meeting
Exactly.
unless you're.
Actually,
I'm just kidding.
I have just changed up my bullshit for the month,
Okay, all right, Polly.
which
Hit us.
is
What is your bullshit?
stop thinking that agentic AI is better or a completely different thing than generative AI. And here's the most
Hmm.
insidious thing I've seen.
Mm.
Because to me, I'm just like, okay, agentic AI is some interesting engineering applications using generative AI technology. But I had seen this is like a Gartner report, a Deloitte report, where they were talking about the ROI and how companies are like, have made a lot of investments, but are struggling to get ROI on their projects, right? So a lot of leaders are in this position of like, great, we've made a lot of investments, like make it rain, baby. Um, and uh, and then there was a line in this Gartner report that was like, well, if you have trouble reaching ROI with your generative AI investments, maybe it's time to look at agentic AI for those use cases. Thank you. Thank you for laughing. Thank you. I nearly cried. I was
I'm
just like,
like, come on,
no.
Gardner, you're better than this, or at least I hope you be.
Exactly. It was like, hey, if you couldn't figure out how to build a shack, maybe you should build a skyscraper. Like it was just not, they're not like you don't need.
Especially considering right now, agentic AI is mostly under automation underneath the hood. So
Right.
basically, you're doing one thing, you're not getting the ROI. Let's 100x that. That'll get you
Exactly.
the
Or
ROI.
or
I'm like,
just change the name. Like just start telling your leaders, don't worry, we've got a new strategy. We're going to use agentic AI and do exactly the same thing you were doing before. Like it's just the madness it's so maddening. Not every use case needs agentic AI. There are lots of really high ROI use cases that have nothing to do with agents and nothing to do with autonomy.
the
Um,
problem, this is my theory as to where the problem is around ROI. You have the wrong people leading the AI
mm,
investments. Ooh. Oh, all right,
ooh,
controversial.
ooh.
Okay,
No, yeah. Tell
it's
me why though.
because it's
Who's
because you have
leading
the
it
tech
and why is
bros.
it wrong?
It's because you have the tech bros. You
Mm,
have mostly what the leaders of these are. They're a technical background. They love the AI. They may even have an AI data science
yeah,
background. Do they know the tech? Absolutely.
yeah,
Hopefully, right? I've seen a few that's fake. But now you have a really cool hammer.
totally. Yeah.
When you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail, and they're not the best at business value.
Hmm.
Also, the second piece that all of these tech bros tend to miss is the non-deterministic nature of generative AI in terms of use cases is not the majority of the use cases they've seen in their entire career writing code.
Yeah.
Those things, they like exact outputs, they like repeatability. None of those things are best with generative AI. Generative AI should be solving things that code traditionally has not solved.
Yeah.
These are not the guys who knows about this. These are not
Yeah.
the guys who look at the business
But
problem, the
they
business
really, really want to
value,
work with it. They really want to get to know it, and they're looking for excuses for it. And they know their
and
team
they
is
do
too.
understand it.
And they're like, I want to keep my team of developers happy. They'll be happy if
My
we get to
big
use
budget because they're
it.
expensive, and so are the compute.
So I think they're all harboring dreams of getting their next job's going to be at OpenAI if they get experience with this. So we're going to keep everyone happy. We're going to keep everyone engaged, and we're going to switch all of our projects over
Yeah.
to using LLMs. it's so tech led. Still 2 years later, we've been decrying this since like 2023, 2022. That's like, please don't keep handing over the product and business value reins to the tech people and then complain that there's no ROI at the end of the day. Like, come on. Give me a break,
Yeah.
right?
So, yes, it's not the tech's fault. You have the wrong leadership in place. Yeah.
I love it. Well, we came a long way from my original bullshit. I feel like we uncovered new bullshit, but
Yeah,
that's the point. That's the point. So my original
yeah.
bullshit
And I
was,
have I have one final one though.
yes, go on. We're
All
on a
right.
rant.
So
Let's do it.
you were on a red. You've seen this from Google. Now you're seeing it from Microsoft when this declaration of 80% of our code is AI generated. By next year, 100% of our code will be AI generated. And I'm like, bullshit.
Right.
What
Right.
they're saying
What?
that because of
Yeah,
something that you think is much smarter happening. But you know what? In code editors since 15 years ago,
exactly.
it's been auto completing, and all of those algorithms
Use
have
AI.
a version of AI
Exactly.
underneath. And I'm like, I
Totally.
don't care how you account for this. If you want to say 80%, I can make it say 80%. If you want to say
Exactly.
50%, I
In
can make
code day,
it say
15 years ago, generate me a class. It's generating 80% of the class. There's a lot of cruft and busy work in programming that it's all like kind of wiring, right?
Yeah.
And so yeah, oh, 80%, you replaced 80% of people. No, this was generated.
Yeah, and
No,
the
I
thing
know.
is that they're saying this because it somehow makes them seem like much more advanced in the AI in their tech.
Yeah,
And realistically, if you are transforming your development team, that's not the line I would be saying.
totally. Not only that, I think it's a little bit of a self-own. I remember noticing this about, so Amazon a year ago declared like, hey, we've saved 4,500 person years with code automation, with like the boring, terrible stuff that I was like, how bad is your code base? There is that much kind of refactoring to do. And it's true, like especially a large sprawling code base like some of these companies have, it is too big a project before generative AI to go back and fix this stuff. So it's low-hanging fruit for them to go back and be like, ooh, all this stuff we always wanted to do. I'm sure it's way more pleasant code to work in. They've massively accelerated how fast their teams can work. I don't decry that, but anytime that they're like, oh my gosh, we've done all this many, it would have taken developers all this work to do this. You're like, what was the state of your code? That much like terrible, crufty kind of stuff that could have been maybe like refactored or, pulled out into patterns that make more sense, right? So it's not maybe the win you think it is.
Yeah.
You're bragging about this.
Yeah, exactly. Your developers should be all using agentic AI tools and doing something completely different, like maybe
Totally.
writing documentation and test cases all at
Yeah,
the same time.
exactly. Totally. But that's the nice thing. I'm looking forward to an era of like, oh wow, all the things you always wanted to do as a developer and you never had the time to go back and clean up. You're like, oh, I've got this little assistant who can go and like clean things up for me, make sure it's all consistent, make the things capitalized, it should be capitalized so it doesn't bug the people with OCD. I'm like, this is beautiful. This is something that will really help and make developers' lives so much more pleasant.
Yeah.
And I don't think anybody's complaining that they don't get to go back and do that work.
You know what I want to see someone say? I want to see like a CTO say, now because of AI, 85% of my code base is effective active code.
Right.
This is
Yeah, or my
those
like
things like only nerds will understand, like, huh?
or like the metric of like my backlog where all the feature requests from the developers go to die because we're never going to do that is now shrunk to zero, right? Like all the things developers that wish they could do to make their lives better
Yeah.
is actually like,
Technical
oh, we took
debt.
care of that. And we didn't have to like do a 6 month spike on refactoring. Like tech teams are always asking to take a spike to, reduce technical debt, right? Because working with the code really sucks. And you're like, man, that's like this thing that we'll measure. So not only is the coding tools accelerating the team, but the better code that we have now is accelerating the teams too. So it's
Yeah.
yet another reason it's going to be a big
Yeah.
win.
Yeah. Just I call BS on that line. That should not be if you're a really big tech CEO. I mean, come on. You know better.
Awesome. Well, that is the end of our BS section. And we hope you caught a lot of the BS that we've been keeping tabs on this month. So we have time for one last section, and that is plugs. Yuying, do you have anything to plug this month?
I do. Same as always, my newsletter on Substack, yuying.substack.com, where I do
Nice.
analysis. And or you can also follow me on LinkedIn and get access to similar content as well.
Yes, get that deep wisdom for executives, the stuff you need to know. Um, I am doing my monthly masterclass, so it's the path to AI leadership. I do it usually once a month, and we go over the skills needed at different levels. So whether it's like senior PMs through leadership, what are the skills you need to be able to lead and really participate in this boom in AI as a leader, be an effective leader? We go over the full life cycle and talk about how AI and specifically generative AI projects are different and the skills you need to develop to lead those. So please join us. I'll have the link on our website at AI Career Boost as well as in the show notes. Lastly, as always, I'd love to plug the show. So if you like us, be sure to let your friends know, like us, give us a thumbs up on your favorite podcast platform, and subscribe to keep up with our monthly updates. And
And
please
that's
reach
an
out
is
to any questions.
especially important this month because we are in the middle of deciding should we continue, should we not continue. So let us
That's
know
right.
if you
Yes,
are a listener and you actually care about
exactly.
podcasts. Might go away.
Here's what we want to hear more of, Exactly. We want to make sure this is valuable for you. Awesome. Well, that's been another episode of AI After Hours, and we'll see you all next month. Thanks so much, Yu Ying. Always a blast.